Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Tower Tales, your ATC Podcast. This is your host, Mahesh Sharma, joining you from Hyderabad to bring you the untold stories of veteran air traffic controllers from the Indian Air Force. In each episode, we delve into their experiences, sharing their real stories, challenges, and the critical roles they played towards ensuring safety and security of our skies. Get ready to explore the fascinating world of ATC with these men and women who were highly radioactive. Our guest for this episode is from the beautiful city of Bengaluru. As a second-generation air warrior and second-generation HAL officer, he was commissioned in the IAF in January 1976 after undergoing training at the National Defence Academy and Air Force Academy. He was the youngest CATE controller of his times and was known for his sound professionalism in air traffic services, including crash firefighting and rescue. In fact, the first ever comprehensive training notes on crash firefighting and rescue was single-handedly developed by him. He served at many operational Air Force flying bases as senior ATC officer and was an ATC and radar examiner besides being an instructor at the ATC Officers Training Establishment. After his premature retirement from IAF in 2001, he joined HAL and superannuated from there in 2013, and thus has the distinction of being an active controller for 30 long years at some of the busiest IAF and HAL airports. While at HAL Bengaluru, he single-handedly navigated the Airport Services Center to attain ISO 9001 certification in its first attempt. He settled in Bengaluru and has continued to follow his passion for reading military history, something that he began in his younger days. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my proud privilege to have Wing Commander BJP Rao with us today for this episode of Tower Tales. Good morning, Wing Commander BJP Rao. It's such a pleasure to connect with you once again, sir. I have very fond memories of having worked with you, and especially because you were my instructor. And not only for me, but for many of the other Air Force officers, you were a role model. In fact, I remember you exuded the military confidence, the professionalism, and the gravitas, and that is something we all talked about very often. So for me personally, it's such a privilege to be connected with you once again, and thanks for joining us from Bengaluru.
Good morning, Mahesh. It's really great to be back with you after a gap of almost 20 years perhaps, and to have me on your show, and looking forward to share my experiences. And must assure you in the outset, I have nothing to do with the political party that shares my name. Okay, and I'm a second generation air warrior. My father too was in the services, Air Force. I was part of the 113 pilots course, and after which I joined the 57 VDOC. That was in 75 and got my commissioned in 1976. I had flown, you can say briefly, my flying experience involved about 60 plus launches on the glider in NDA, after which we went solo. Then about 40 hours on the basic piston engine trainer, ST2, in Bidar. After that, we flew the intermediate piston engine trainer in Air Force Academy, that is the Howard, and I flew about 95 hours on that. And finally, the Kiran HGT-16 aircraft, a word about it, we were the first course to fly, of cadets, to fly the Kiran HGT-16 aircraft.
Oh, wow.
So on the ground, 1 year of training, and then after commissioning, we were trained in the basic ATC course at that time in Hakimpet. And even now in that court, you have the roll of honor. So you will find the name on the top somewhere before at court came, actually.
Yes, sir.
Because they had topped that course.
Sir, may I intervene here for a while? Since you talked about your name at top of that roll of honor, we used to talk about you being the youngest CATE controller in the IAF. Is that true?
True.
Oh, all right. So that and that was really a feather in your cap. And we used to always admire you. Okay, that's Wing Commander Rao. I mean, that time I think you were a flight lieutenant or a squad leader when you got the CAT.
Flight trip.
Yeah, flight lieutenant. Yeah, great, sir.
My first posting was Pune. I had back to Pune, good old, where I spent 3 years in NDA. So in Pune, Lohagaon, I arrived on the Saturday. On a Sunday after breakfast, I was not having much to do, so I went to the ATC to pick up the local information and try to acquaint myself with the airfield layout and things like that. I had a senior controller with me, just senior, was a flying officer, Keith Jagannath, also ex-NDA. So when I went there, I just was busy doing all that. There was one Canberra aircraft, which was doing an air test at that time. So he just made a request, could you do a controlled descent at the end of the sortie? He said, sure. I thought he's asking for himself because Pune traffic was a little heavy, so that they may not have got a chance to do a QGH with the Canberra. So anyway, suddenly when that guy was saying, okay, he gave the mic into my hands. That was a horror because I didn't even know what was the outbound track, what was the inbound track, and what height should I level him up. You start, I'll tell you. So
I can completely relate to that kind of a feeling because I remember when for the first time after the training I held a mic and donned the headphones, I was very nervous, very nervous. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
So it turned out okay, and then the pilot had said, good let down. My God. So I was absolutely on top of the world. That's where the feeling. And anyway, so that thing happened.
Yeah.
So the next day was the first day of my service, and it was a Monday, and I was full of beans, reasonably familiar. There were two controllers who were actually on the controls. They were just having a small breakfast break, near a table behind. And there was a formation of 4 MiG-21 aircraft that was taxiing out. They had lined up. So they said, BJP, just give them takeoff here. And let the whole runway all clear, then give them the surface wind and so formation clear for takeoff. It was rolling. Immediately there was a kind of a panic call saying, saturation runway, abandon takeoff. 2 controllers sitting behind, they just dived. I saw one of them flat on the desk trying to put that traffic light on.
Oh, okay.
And imagine, they just, nothing, no other thing with the RT, and the flight commander also was part of this. Squadron commander also was part of the formation. So he said, permission backtrack and line up again. They took over, and they took off, landed. In the meantime, of course, the news reached my SATCO. Then squad leader MR Nair, sir. And he came on top. He said, what happened? And he scolded these 2 controllers. He said, I was available in my office. Why you could have called me? And I thought my turn is next, and I will be physically thrown from the air traffic control path on the first day of my career. That's the end of it, boss. BJP, wake up. Believe me, he did not even look at me. Maybe I came with a aura of having topped the course or whatever. So they said, whatever he is the best we have. Believe me, he didn't even look at my face. That was a shock to me because I was preparing myself to receive, get some bull. Nothing of that sort happened. Looking back, I'll say that silence of MR Nair sir was so eloquent. And it taught me, so deeply imprinted in the next 30 years of my active ATC career. I'm not counting the time spent as an instructor or as a command ATC officer. Actively on the controls, 30 years I've spent. It never happened again.
Yeah, I think, sir, sometimes it's not the said, the unsaid that actually haunts you. Yeah, true.
So that is I'll say, interesting but no rather deadly start of the whole.
And just at the beginning of your first career. Yeah. I can completely understand.
So coming to Pune, good experience, and the next year, that is, I joined up in 1976. So in 77, I was sent for that air crash rescue and firefighting course, which was held in the Defence Institute of Fire Research in Delhi.
Yeah.
So there also did pretty well, and I topped that course. So when I came back, I was obviously made in charge of the crash firefighting side and training of the crews in that whole thing. And because I was trained, I was well prepared to handle it also. So did that.
I remember you teaching us the ropes of CFF and R, Crash for
Yeah.
Fighting and Rescue.
In those days we didn't have a proper GCA control school and things like that. And what used to happen was a senior chief GCA controller in an operational place where the GCA is operational. They used to gather about 5 or 6 other officers and train them, single instructor. And that Pune was one of the bases where that was happening. And our chief GCA controller was one Scotland leader, LP Srinivasan sir. I requested him to let me do this course. And sure enough, in 78, he detailed me for the course. I was junior most officer again, and I taught that course also. So thereafter, the good thing was that that was an operational base. So I continued with Srinivasan sir. He put me through the bases. I got my radar rating also.
Okay.
The same list. So Pune was a terrific posting, the first posting, because I got exposed to mixed traffic. I was fire trained, I was radar trained. I got my catch C, and then we left. Coming to my second posting was Adampur. So when I reached there, the situation was like this. We had an American radar which was actually getting decommissioned, and the ATC 40 surveillance radar and the RP3 of precision approach radar. The equipment had arrived, and the technical guys were busy installing that, and they not yet come to the stage where calibration had to be done. That was on the equipment side. On the other side, the controller side, we were 4 controllers who were GCA trained. That included my SATCO, who had done the course after me in the same Pune. And there were 2 other senior controllers who had done before. But none of them had any experience, and hence no rating also. So Flying Officer BJP Rao was the junior most again there, and the only guy who had done the course and got the experience and got the rating also. So the good thing my SATCO did was, he said, BJP, GCA is your baby. Anything coming about GCA or anything, I'm going to push the thing to you. You're stuck somewhere, you come back to me. Otherwise, you're going to be responsible for everything concerned with GCA. I said, good, sir.
You have had opportunities where you actually handled multiple things. You had different experiences. You had good bosses who had faith in you and gave you challenging tasks. I think that really shaped you well.
And I'm fortunate to get them, actually. Yeah, true. You're
Please
very
go
right.
ahead.
So that was Adampur, and in the meantime, I also was declared a radar examiner as a flying officer in that command. So I started the training of the senior controllers also. They used to come and I used to supervise. I was overlooking it basically. So this whole thing took some time, and I remember a flight commander once meeting me and said, BJP, when do you go home here? Morning we fly, we hear you. Afternoon we fly, we hear you. Evening we fly, night we fly, we hear you. When do you go home? I said, sir, I can't help it because I'm alone. And the others have to still get the experience and get their ratings, and only then you can hear them on the RT.
Yeah.
So, okay. One incident I would like to bring to the notice of all the viewers. Why I'm saying that because it is a little hatke, and what all can go wrong.
Yeah, that is what we are interested in.
The situation was like this. It was a normal days of flying. The weather wasn't exactly sparkling blue skies as such, but a little cloudiness here and there. There was a young pilot, I think, a flying officer at that time, in the MiG-21, and he just took off, I think, with crew formation. And suddenly he, had a case where the canopy flew off.
Oh.
Canopy just flew off. Fortunately, he was not at an altitude where you could have explosive decompression or oxygen deficiency and things like that. It happened at a rather, inside 10,000 feet, below 10,000 feet or 3 kilometers. So he asked for rejoin. But the thing was, that the wind howl was so unnerving that he was actually in a mild panic, and being a younger pilot. And his transmissions were not very clear because the howling noise of the wind,
Absolutely.
that was overwhelming. His transmissions were not very clear. This was the air situation, and he was wanting to rejoin. On the ground, what we had was a SATCO who had just arrived, senior controller, senior officer. But his last exposure to fighter flying was in Srinagar with NATS.
Okay.
So he was, actually acquainting himself with the aerodrome control. And I don't think he was GCA trained. And there was a senior controller who was overseeing when he was doing that, receiving his own experience. He was on the RT, and this thing was happening. So I was on the GCA, and I was having a guy on a circuit to get him for a precision approach radar practice for the pilot, and that was the situation. So I was getting him down, uneventful, and then I was given landing clearance also by the tower. I knew that this guy is, when things happening like this, but not very clear exactly where he was and things like that. The whole thing was, proceeding quite well. But it came around 5 kilometers. Suddenly I found, in the elevation screen, something appearing. I said, what's this? And sure enough, then on the azimuth also he was appearing, little closer than that. Then the pilot, as well as I, both of us almost stopped at the same time. He said, hey, who's that? I said, stop, he said, turn off to the right. Because the circuit was on the left side. I knew there's some problem. I said, I saw it there, then I saw, here also, then he also, almost both of us together, he also saw, I said, who is this? Stop, he said, turn off to the right. I said, climb to. And I thought, oh, what happened? But anyway, he came second, I got him, I think he did a visual approach or whatever. And, sure enough, we were all standing in the AOC's office. We really could have had a mid-air collision between two aircraft on short finals. So it was as bad as that. On examination, what happened was, because of that RT not being too clear, I think he was told to report overhead. But in his mild excitement to get back quickly, he I think joined downwind and reported downwind. So when he reported downwind, actually speaking, these guys thought he's reported overhead.
Okay.
Then he said turning base or whatever or turning finals, they thought that's downwind. The control tower was exactly one step behind the real situation. The thing was, it wasn't really sparkling blue skies. There was some cloudiness and all that, and this guy also came from I don't know where, and he was in a hurry to quickly join the circuit from somewhere and land somewhere. Maybe they were searching for him or whatever. And this happened, in the survey. And people marched up. So obviously we got a mouthful from the AOC. After which my SATCO said, sir, with your permission, may I say something? I said, yeah. He said, sir, I'm at fault. It wasn't, corrected, or even he also, by overseeing me also, missed it out at some side. So while the ATC did cause this situation, it's the same ATC which gave a timely go around for the guy behind, and we avoided a collision. So I just wanted to bring that to your notice.
I think that's an example which serves as a good reminder to everyone that we need to be very situationally aware, not just in the cockpit but also on the ground. What is happening around you? The situational awareness about the airspace is very, very important, and I can completely relate to what you're saying. And fortunately, you saved the day that day.
Yeah, but one more thing which I want to add, Mahesh, is this, that this could happen, anywhere where a senior person is there and you're overseeing and things like that. There is a certain awe, I would say, because of his seniority or whatever is like that. That should distract us from the situation outside and things like that. So the awe is fine, but when you're overseeing something, you're the instructor, so to speak. So be in that frame of mind. And don't assume that he would have seen, he'll feel bad if I say, no, that's not the thing.
No, I think history is replete with such examples, both in the cockpit and elsewhere, where what they call the trans-cockpit ascendancy gradient, where the difference between the junior and the senior or the experienced people is so much that the junior is not very comfortable overruling the senior, even when he knows or she knows that things are not right.
You're right. And that's why they actually have these, rules in the flying side also, where you can't pair, how to pair the pilots, where you, two of them, or even in a formation. What is the difference in their, skill levels which there should be? Suppose a rookie guy is going up with the most experienced guy, because they have their own self-pride or whatever. So in trying to measure up to that guy, this guy may cross the limits. It's happened also. Believe me, it's happened. Same Adampur. We lost a guy, a young budding pilot, He overturned inside one of the one-to-one exercises, combat exercises, and I think he cheated. He pulled up a little flap to get a harder, harsher turn. Just to say, I got by Wing Commander.
But it's true, sir. While, when we go out on roads every day, there could be many misses, but you survive because you're on terra firma. But in
Yeah.
the air, when you make a mistake,
Yeah.
it is unpardonable.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely.
So one has to be. That's why air traffic control assumes greater significance, because it is a stressful job indeed. You have to be sure of what you're doing, be
Absolutely.
situationally aware. So, sir, that brings me to another question. What does it take to be a good controller?
Yeah.
And a very proficient controller?
I will actually say there are little few basic things. Number one is that you have to be somebody who can be alert, okay, but relaxed. You say, what is that? That's an oxymoron. How can you be alert and relaxed? No, you can't be. You need to be a controller to learn that you can do that. You're alert but relaxed. Okay. Alert doesn't mean that you panic. You're in a huff. No. Number one.
You're speaking like a Zen master now. All right. Yeah.
And the second thing is you have to have very sharp visual as well as oral acuity. Because in your screen, like say, older days we had some notes on the desk and we had some strips and all those things. Now all that has become electronic. You have an electronic screen over there with all the information. Nothing like it. At the same time, you must know where to look at. Or something has changed, it must attract your attention. Okay, this thing has changed. So there are even color codings and all that to tell you that this is new information and things like that. But you have to be looking at that and grasping it straight away. Okay, which aircraft? What is this thing? Like that. And like say when we were on the radar, those radars did not have any electronic symbology coming to you on the scope. 8 aircraft were considered as heavy traffic. Now imagine you just have 8 blips. You just have blips. You must know their call sign. Okay, he's this call sign, his level given was so and so, he's this, level given so and so, he's this, he's asked for this, he's low on fuel, have to recover him fast. All those things. It's not a simple thing. So your visual and oral acuity. Similarly, on the RT, some other channel, something has happened, or somebody gave you an instruction on the intercom. Hey, do this or something like that. So one is alertness and one is this. And thirdly is presence of mind. Presence of mind. Because in spite of all the experience or whatever grooming you've had, sometimes things don't go the way you expected. What do you do? It's a good lead. So you have to have that ability immediately. What can I do? What can I do? It should occur to you straight away without getting bamboozled or confused. So that kind of clarity is very important. You have to be very clear thinking in that and be able to grasp the situation and the gravity of that and respond adequately.
So that would also involve an element of anticipation.
Anticipation, yes, but suppose what happens is against what you anticipate. I'm talking of those situations.
What if?
They are more tricky.
So you should be prepared for what if this happens.
So those things should be running in your mind. The basics should be absolutely there. And again, like I said, alert but relaxed. Sharp acuity. Any change in information, okay, something, okay, you see weather is picking up or the winds are picking up, you have to observe all those things.
Listening to this, I get a feeling that an air traffic controller has to wear many hats.
True. Very challenging, that's right. And
so tell me one thing, since we are talking about this, how I'm sure that, like they say that school is a place where not the best minds excel, but even an average mind is also trained to do better. Now, when it comes to air traffic controlling, when people join air traffic control stream, how do you ensure that they are readied for future air traffic control roles?
One very important point in this whole thing, which I must say now, is standard phraseologies. It's extremely important.
Oh yeah.
Standard phraseology. I also initially thought, why are they being so
rigid?
I got every controller. So what? As long as you get across. So no. First of all, English is not our mother tongue for everybody. Number one. Number two is between the other guy. He could be, again somebody else. From the English accent itself, you'll find it's so vast among the various regions in the world. So when two of you are in the same airspace and you are communicating, to be able to communicate If I mean this, I should use this word. If this word is used, it means this. That has to be in black and white. You can't leave it to individual vocabularies.
True.
And if you see internationally also, those very serious near misses and things like that, I'll say quite a few of them happen because of the physiology,
Non-standard physiology. Yeah. In the beginning, when we took the controls after training,
Yeah.
to decipher what the pilot is saying
Exactly.
over the RT, it
Exactly.
took us some time to understand, to
Absolutely.
get tuned to that kind of a environment where you are able to sift through that noise and understand.
Exactly. We all have been through that phase. There's no
Yeah.
escape from that.
Great, sir. So we were talking about training the youngsters and the dissemination of information. One is, of course, the standard and recommended practices, RT physiology. The ICAO has a lot of documentation.
Yeah.
What else? Does something else come to your mind?
Very good question you asked, and this is what I want to actually get across my viewers. The importance of open, direct, candid communication between controllers and between controllers and pilots. It's like this. In the course of work, we have people at all levels of proficiency and things like that, and everything's fine. So there will be some minor hiccups here and there, or minor mistakes made here and there on the ground and in the air too. Okay. Now, if suppose one controller has made some mistake and he learned from that, now that must be passed on to the others, at least in his own group. Number one. Number two, have a mechanism to institutionalize it also.
So that the wheel is not rediscovered.
Yeah. Somebody, on the issue, I must tell you that after Second World War, Britain had set up a panel to find out lessons learned, and they made it. After the Falklands War, also there was a similar panel which was asked to investigate the whole thing and give a report on that. They also came down to lessons learned. To their horror, they found they were the same as in 1945, which means lessons were not learned.
Yeah, and unfortunately, somebody else paid a price. Yeah.
So that has to be. It's a very, very important point. This is experience gained by the organization, which means by the people who man the organization, must be first of all come out, documented, and institutionalized. You leave it somewhere, make it part of training, or make it part of briefings or whatever. So people don't make the same mistakes again.
Yeah.
The more you can do it, the lesser you will learn by mistakes on the ground. It's very, very important.
Yeah, because like they say that most of the SOPs are written in blood because somebody is paid for.
I used to use the same term for the phraseologies. I said, don't deviate from phraseologies because every single word has blood shed behind it.
Yeah.
That is the importance of it. It's holy, it's sacrosanct.
We will rush to the next question, and since we were talking about the separation and minimas, you were one of the few controllers who has served in the HAL, a civilian organization, for more than a decade. And there you were required to follow the standards and procedures which we use for the civilian traffic, not the military tactical flying. So what has been your experience? What was the difference, and how did you handle it? Yes.
So first of all, I joined the HAL in 2002 in Bangalore, and I was fortunate. I had my erstwhile instructor when I was a basic ATC course when I was doing, one Wing Commander BJP Mitra sir. Subsequently, he was in Dasi also, and he was an HAL at that time, and he was my senior. So after the initial field layout show, I actually had to start from scratch, like a pilot officer coming to a new station. And he guided me, and he was my mentor at the whole time. And he used to be my standby controller also, overseeing what I'm doing. So I took about 3 months to orientate myself to that kind of traffic. Basically, though the separation minima is the same, the methods used to achieve it, because of the higher performance levels of fighters and things like that, which another transport aircraft can't do, or a commercial aircraft will not do, things like that. Like,
Yeah.
just to give you a very simple example, in ATC, the Air Force says somebody is coming and he's coming a little too earlier than required, and there's no space on circuit to absorb him. You say, okay, make one 360 and join up soon. That's not possible. You
Yeah.
go 360.
Yeah.
You have to be in a holding pattern, or you can say reduce speed, or give him some other place to go and report. You can't be doing one orbit here and one more orbit there. That doesn't work. So things like that. So I'll just explain the whole thing. It's like this, You've learned something. Now I've gone into a different environment.
Hmm.
I need to first unlearn that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then relearn what suits that environment.
So
this
de-skill
cycle
and
of
reskill.
learn,
Yeah.
unlearn, relearn.
Relearn.
Unless you unlearn, you can't relearn.
True.
You'll confuse. So about HAL, I must tell you that I joined in 2002 now. So the first 2-3 years, yes, traffic was increasing. But 2005 onwards, it became really very, very busy. To the extent, HAL Airport, Bangalore was the third busiest airport in the country after Delhi and Mumbai, more than Chennai and Calcutta.
Oh, okay.
Number one. Number two, so in terms of number of movements wise, we were number 3. But in terms of the the traffic complexity, the traffic pattern complexity, and the type of operations which are happening at the same time, simultaneously, we were number 1. I'll tell you how. We had Air Force fighters. We had helicopter testing. We had civil aviation, that is cargo, passenger, domestic, international, general aviation. You had test flying going on. There again you had 2 types. One is the production test flying. Like say a Jaguar is being manufactured. The Jaguar is a proven aircraft. Okay. Other is LCA, unproven. That is known as experimental test flying.
Yeah. The light combat aircraft.
There have been so many incidents where a guy is just taken off. He says, recover. You have lined up very neatly 4 guys behind him. You have to accommodate him quickly and recover him. And give those guys something else. You go on, whatever. So we've had so many instances where such things happen. And imagine, there's no airport in the world where experimental test flying, civil aviation are happening at the same time. I'm saying commercial aviation.
And
Glad that I was on board the ship when it passed through its stormiest seas. It was that time. It was in 5.
And I'm happy that somebody like you was there when the ships were passing through that stormy sea.
So 2008, what happened was they already had come up.
Yeah.
So thereafter, till 2013, the next 5 years were normal traffic. There was no too much of stress. So that's the time when, just to mention that, I was asked to take care of the 9000 ISO 9001 and 9002 certification for the entire air traffic services center.
Okay.
So again, that was another experience. I'm saying because I had the time for it, of course. It took me about almost a year and a half and a couple of drafts. It was quite a task which I made, and the entire and then in the first instance, in the first visit, we successfully got the ISO certification. So that was, I'd say, there are ATC se hatke experience hua hai, how to bring up a whole place to the requirements of ISO certification. Yeah. So,
Great, sir. It is really lovely listening to these experiences and stories. I think we had a wonderful interaction today.
Actually, I had in mind one of the incidents that occurred in Kalaikonda, where we had 4 Jaguars up in the air. The situation was like this. It was in Kalaikonda, and as you're aware, we had an air-to-air range in Balasore. And at that time, that was the only air-to-air range in the whole country. The second one at Jamnagar was dysfunctional. It was not operated. Okay. We also had an air-to-ground range very closely located near the airfield. So that was a little tricky because the range circuit and the runway circuit were very close. So we had to be careful, handing over from one circuit to the other and vice versa. And because of the air-to-air range, we had a squadron coming from outstation year-round, virtually year-round. A small little gap in the monsoons, perhaps for a month or two, whole year round. The target towing aircraft was a Hunter aircraft, modified for the purpose. And that was a class by itself. Because before you give him line up, the whole target had to be properly laid out on the runway. Come and he would attach. And similarly, while dropping the thing, he had to go on a particular circuit and we had to tell him, ATC, okay, drop now. and all that. And he was always low on fuel because coming from Balasore, he used to be howling from there, I'm low on fuel, I want priority, I'm low on fuel, I want priority. So we had a situation where my weather was not too good and rather cloudy, and I was in my office and seeing, and I found one Jaguar taxiing out, then I found one more, four aircraft taxiing out. I said, what's wrong? Has the weather warning been given or not? I rushed to the tower. I said, has the weather warning been given? Yes, sir. Have you told the pilot, captain of the commander of the formation? Yes, sir. Okay. Where the duty pilot says he's on the way. In the meantime, it started raining, and I could make out that this is a very big droplets, drops and all that. So it's going to be a very severe undercloud and heavy rain. And there was only single controller in GCA, so I rushed from there to the GCA, and just while going, I told them, I said, listen, winds are changing. Because even before my leaving the control tower, I found winds are changing. So I said, listen, these guys who are just going out, and they may have to come back. So, as far as possible, keep the same runway so that we don't have to change the PR orientation to the opposite runway.
Yeah.
I cautioned them, and then I cut. And by then, it was fully raining. Not just raining, believe me, it is the heaviest rain I've seen in my life. It was a cloud burst.
Oh, okay.
From ATC, we could not see the runway.
Okay.
And we had 4 Jaguars aircraft. I rushed to the GCA. On the way, all the wind shins, and I was fully drenched by the time I reached the GCA. And there we had one controller who was handling this whole thing. And by the time they had come, they had abandoned the sortie. They came overhead. And like I've said, the squadron commander and the flight commander were part of the formation. So they had given themselves their own separation and said, okay, we are piled up on you. Once overhead, even SRE not of much use because they were already overhead.
Yeah.
Anyway. So then once the thing settled down, they said, okay, what's the surface wind and all that. In the meantime, before they take off, when the duty pilot came, even before he came to the control desk from there, he says, okay, take off. And they were also told, don't change the runway because if they come back immediately, we need the PRs. But he overruled the TATCOs over there. But this kind of this thing, we can't take it. In that, what happened was that the runway controller we had on the main runway in use, and you had the bird watcher on the opposite end, who had an RT set, he had Veri pistols, and he had sodium flares. Okay? When the runway was changed, so PR had to be reorientated. Okay? And now the runway controller or the runway end was that ATC.
Yeah.
Not the experienced guy. The experienced guy is on the opposite end, the wrong end.
Correct.
So the whole thing happened. We got the first guy. When the PR was turning to the opposite runway, it stopped.
Oh. Okay.
So now you just have the SRE and nothing else. So they positioned the first aircraft that he was the squadron commander, and he was coming on the SRE approach. And when he was just about 2-3 miles or so from there, you had a call saying, go down, sir. It was that LAC in the runway controller's end who was alert and who was seeing, and was too far from the ATC, you couldn't see from here.
Yeah.
Then all mics and all PTTs in TAR and GCA were pressed and said, go down. Can you believe people in TAR saw a Jaguar with both engines on, afterburners on, 3 feet above the runway without undercarriage down.
Oh.
The Jaguar was 3 feet above the runway with afterburners on and undercarriage up. Obviously, the controller was rather shaken, so I take over. And I just sat on the left facing. The small little plank on which you rest your elbows and you make small controller's notes, that collapsed.
Yeah. Oh.
So I took a paper and pencil and I'm writing here what levels are given and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I take it. So then I said, Roger, continue, climb on takeoff, so and so, and turn right. On some heading I gave him. That guy gave a panic call. For God's sake, turning left. I said, calm down, Roger. Continue left turn. Roll out so and so heading. Things were really getting out of hand. Everybody was in a panic and everybody yelling at everybody else. And I said, calm down, continue turning left, roll out so and so heading. And then, of course, brought him on an SRE approach, landed. Then the next guy was a reasonably experienced pilot. He came and brought him also down. On the landing run, instead of pulling the tail chute lever, again because of high intensity, excitement in the cockpit.
Yeah.
He pulled the lever to dump fuel. Jaguars had that arrangement where you could dump fuel without making it go through the engine, like other aircraft before.
Yeah.
So now you had fuel on the runway dumped.
My God.
But fortunately, it was raining so heavily, it just got washed off.
Yeah.
And the third guy was actually the I'll say the least experienced of all the four. I think it's just about white instrument rating. So I was getting him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he has done too many SRE approaches and all that. And we had nothing better to do. We couldn't do anything else. We got him. So somewhere then he was also looking out. He found a white patch. He said, "Sir, I got the white patch in contact. I'm aligning myself on that." He said, "Okay." And we also was observing him on radar, very clearly on the right hand side. I said, "You are right of the approach." He said, "Yeah, I got the white portion inside." So we were thinking it's got the runway. You're not taking correction. He said, "You are aligned to the taxiway, not the runway." Then his flight commander number 4, good airmanship.
Yeah.
Waiting to be the last guy to land.
Yes.
Seeing all this, overseeing all this, overhearing all this. He said, "For God's sake, follow the radar." He said, "So, Roger, sir." A little heavy landing, but both pilot and the aircraft in one piece.
Great.
The fourth aircraft was the one which was actually eventless in the entire cockpit. So way back while taxiing, back, flight commander said, "Who's the controller? So can we meet in the crew room and a cup of tea?" So he met there. He started saying, a lot of mistakes were made everywhere, and it began with me. I should not have allowed this formation to go. And then that other thing, thank you so much for and then this was separated.
I got 4 aircraft to save that day, 4 lives.
He went to the AOC, and for some reason, I don't know why, he was kind of, made up his mind that some follow up on the, controllers inside, ATC side here. So then we went to the office, I tried to explain to him also everything, but he didn't seem convinced. He said, anyway, to his credit, I must say, 2 months later, he got all of us in the ATC as well as met and said in so many words and acknowledged that day we came very close to a very dangerous situation. Thanks to the ATCs and all those things, we got all these aircraft back. And before that, the squadron commander himself went back and sent a citation thanking us for the whole thing. So I'm just saying, believe me, that is the worst, kind of emergency ever faced. We could have lost 4 Jaguars that day.
Yeah. I can completely understand. And this incident that you have narrated highlights some of the key traits of a good air traffic controller. Like you were talking of the calm, even when there's a lot of chaos going around, and the ability to anticipate and be prepared for something which is not foreseen, and be firm on the RT. When you know that, like they say in the air, you trust your instruments. Here too, you need to, when you're sitting on the SRE, that guy had he gone for the white patch, could have been very, very dangerous. Yeah.
One more thing, Mahesh, hear what I'm saying. Usually you'll find people are more keen on the PR approach because they're more comfortable.
Yes.
You get guidance information on the glide path also and things like that. But it was SRE approach proficiency which saved that day. So there's a lesson that said also.
Yes.
Train yourself for all contingencies. This is also a contingency.
And military flying is like that.
Exactly.
Because in case of an operation, you may have certain facilities not available to you.
Yeah. The catchword here is foresee and forestall.
Yes.
Foresee and forestall. Yeah.
Foresee and forestall. Yes. That's a great learning. Thank you so much, sir, for narrating this incident.
Yeah. Thank you, Mahesh, for
I think this is a big learning. No, it's always a pleasure, sir. And I know that there are so many more incidents and stories that you may have to tell, but in the interest of time, we'll have to stop it
Thank
here.
you for tolerating me so far.
No. Thank you so much, sir. It was such a pleasure having you here on this podcast.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for tuning into Tower Tales, the ATC podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and had a first-hand peek into the incredible work and life of yet another veteran controller. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to my channel on YouTube, leave a review, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. This podcast is also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Your feedback will help me bring you more of the content you enjoy. Join me after a fortnight for for yet another engaging discussion with a veteran air traffic controller. Until then, this is Mahesh Sharma, your host, signing off for now. Safe travels and happy landings.
707 Andrews Tower, you are